Marburger Farms is one of the premier fields at Antique Week in Round Top, Texas. Country Living magazine named Marburger Farms one of the top 10 antique shows in America. 350 dealers from around the country were exhibiting their wares, and what a variety to choose from. Architectural elements, decorative garden items, fine art, silver, Americana, jewelry, and mid-century modern are just a few of the things you'll find. I'm always on the hunt for something unusual to learn more about, and with a show this size, there should be plenty of things to choose from. I absolutely love antique tiles, and it's probably not something that you consider resourcing or purchasing when you're out at estate sales or antique shops. But today I'm talking with tile expert Colleen Martin. She's going to tell us a little bit about how she finds her things, how you can determine the age of them, and what some of the processes were in which they were made.
Okay. This type of tile is a really special type of tile, and it's not your typical tile that you would normally find.
Why?
Because it's actually a floor tile. It's not a wall tile, and most people are used to seeing the antique wall tiles that are porcelain bodies with very nice artistic qualities, and then they have a glaze over them. Mm-hmm. These are actually unglazed. Now this is a high-fired vitreous porcelain as well, but it's unglazed, and the color is actually in the tile. And if you look at the side of the tile, I don't know if you can see it here, but you can see the color is actually about a third of the way to halfway through the tile. And these tiles, because they're floor tiles, had to be made that way. So in order to make them with a pattern like this, they would take a really, really fancy cookie cutter, and they would hand pour each color into the tile one at a time, getting all the delineations and the color and the pattern in each mold, and then they would let it dry. And then after the clay was dry, they would remove the mold, and the tiles were made upside down, and they would pour a solid color on the back and press it down, and then it would be fired. So actually you can sand the surface of these tiles, and you can walk on them for 150 years,
and you're not going to destroy them.
And you're not going to do anything, which is how we can, still find them today in really good shape.
So we know when these are unglazed, they were made for the floor, and the ones with the glaze were made for the wall.
Correct, because the glazed tiles don't do so well on the floor. In fact, I have some that were inset into my floor in my historic home, and you can tell when they've been walked on, the glaze starts chipping up, and you'll start to lose the picture in the tile and start to see the underbody of the porcelain. These tiles were not glazed, so there's nothing to chip off. The color is actually in the tile, which is why you can walk on them for 150 years, and then you can still pull them up and reclaim them and still treasure them today and relay them.
150 years. Okay, that was going to be my next question. Mm-hmm. How old are these tiles?
These tiles, they started making them in 1840s in France, and they made them up until about 1920. Mm-hmm. And in 1920 the market kind of died in France, and then you will see other countries start making them. When they were made post 1920, they had synthetic pigments. From the original ones that were made between 1840 and 1920 have natural earth pigments, and you can tell when they're fired. You can see especially the browns and the oxides, because they're natural oxides. You'll see the red fade into a dark, and that's just temperature sensitive where it was in the big kiln. The pigment will tell you that this is an old tile. And you can also see on the back, you can also see the original mark with a shaved mortar back, because when we pull them up, they have about 2 inches of mortar bed, and we shave them off with a really big saw so that they can be relaid. So, but if they've never been laid down, they're either inventory that never was sold, or you need to look at the pigment on the face and make sure that it's a natural earth pigment, because these really aren't made anymore. The porcelain clay that these were made with is gone.
So you mentioned these were originally made in France, and then in England and in the U.S. Correct. Are there any kind of pointers that would tell us, like an indicator for what country they were made in?
Yeah, it's actually very easy. When you see a tile like this, the first thing most people do is they look at the face and they see the design and they see the pattern, and you'll look to see if it's glazed or unglazed. And once you know it's a floor tile, the thing to do is to flip it upside down.
Oh.
And the English ones were always made with a terracotta base.
Okay.
And they were made, like I told you, these were made upside down. The English ones were made right side up, and the pattern was impressed with like a wood mold into the top, and then a slip was poured in. So you'll see a terracotta body punctuated with holes for firing in an English tile. In the U.S., they were made very much in the English style, but they're always marked in the U.S. The U.S. ones will either say U.S. encaustic or American encaustic. Another key factor is the marking, because a lot of the English and American and the French and Belgian ones, and also the German ones as well, and and also a little bit in Italy and Spain also. They're usually marked. Now this one's quite a nice marking. If I flip it right side up, you can see it's got 4 rampart lions. And this manufacturer is Duzes, and it was made in a town called Maubeuge. And you can see Duzes here and Duzes here, and you'll see, if you could see this, it actually says Maubeuge right there, which is right on the borderline of Belgium and France.
Well, I imagine the last thing the viewers are going to want to know is
how much do they cost?
How much do they cost? If I was wanting a new kitchen floor or a backsplash or something maybe in my bathroom, what kind of money am I mean, this is great and this is historical, lovely and all that, but you know, the bottom line is, what's it going to cost me?
Yeah, these are actually quite a bit cheaper when you find them than wall tiles, because wall tiles, as you know, can be up to $200 a piece.
Right.
These range between $12 a piece for the simple patterns, or the patterns that we reclaim quite a bit, because they were in large commercial areas and will reclaim 2,000 square feet, to something like this tile, which was reclaimed from the outside of a building, and we have 35 pieces, which can get up there into like the $75-$80 range. And then when you pull up, sometimes you'll pull up really special tiles like this, which has a very Art Nouveau motif, and they're very rare. And you have the butterfly motif with the peacock feather, and when you put this floor together, it flows even more, and then there's a border that goes around it. A lot of times these were set to look like Oriental rugs, and so you'll have really fancy double borders that go along with it, and you can actually set them down as an Oriental rug in tile. So, but the price does vary, but they're a little bit more affordable than what people know for wall tiles. Wonderful.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to show them to us today. And all I want to know is, when are you coming to my house?
Tomorrow.
Perfect.
Sounds good, huh?
Arriving early on the first day puts you in the best position to find an exclusive pick. You have to have a great eye to spot that something special before someone else. Jody Roberts gives me the exclusive on the find of the week. I always love the story of a good find and what some of people's favorite things are. So tell me, this is a fabulous booth. I had to stop here because I was attracted to a little bit of everything, especially all of the crowns that we have, which I should be wearing one right now. Anyways, my question for you is, out of all these wonderful things in your booth, what is your favorite find?
Well, one of the favorite things that I think, and I was very happy to get, were these pair of French altar sticks. They're probably from the 1850s and in very nice condition considering the age that they are. So I was real tickled to get those, because that's my love. French and Italian things.
French and Italian combination. Yeah. What do I do if I decided I wanted these? Where would I put them in my home? Sell me on this.
I sell a lot of these type of pieces to put on a mantle. They look great.
Oh yeah.
On each side of a mirror, look great. I mean, so you can really use them in a lot of ways other than what they were used for originally, which would have been in a church.
Right, because I don't have a church.
Exactly.
But I do have a mantle, and I do have a mirror, so I could put one on each side.
Fabulous.
They're big enough, they make a statement. Somebody's going to come in, they're going to...
like in between them, an urn with, you know, whatever in a flower plant, or you could do it up with fruit, whatever you wanted to do for the season. It would look great in the middle between them.
Very nice. Christmas is coming up. Put little Christmas balls in the urn and stuff too?
You could.
You got me thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the other things that everybody likes to know is, at these kinds of shows, there's always the story of the one that got away, the great finds.
Sure.
Have you heard of any?
I have. There was talk of a Tiffany lampshade.
Oh, well now you have my interest. Tell me more.
That was purchased for $750. That I believe the gentleman turned down $50,000.
I'm not a CPA, I'm not an accountant, but that's a large
amount
coup.
of profit. Yes.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
And they found that here?
They found it here in the Round Top area. I don't believe it was at this show, but in one of the shows in the area.
Okay. I think maybe I need to get here a little earlier in the day
so
that I can be that. Yeah. Note to self, next spring, come earlier.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for taking your time and talking to us today.
You're very welcome.
And if you have any questions about collecting, or if you have a great find you'd like to tell us about, email me at Reyne, which is Reyne, @antiques.com.